Hi, I'm Grace, and this is my inquiry video. First, my inquiry question is, can urban teachers reach individual students in their classroom as well as rural teachers can when they have significantly less students um, in their classroom? I wanted to explore this issue because I wanted to see if there was a significant difference between rural classrooms and urban classrooms due to the fact of overcrowded and more diverse and more students come from different backgrounds. I personally had been noticing this because I grew up in a very small town with a couple hundred people in my high school, and all from the same town. And I felt all throughout my education that um, I was reached by my teachers because of the small classroom size. They were able to learn how each one of us learns um, and how we respond best to lessons. And I guess I wanted to see if that was the same when there's class sizes that are significantly larger than the ones that I was in, like 14, 16, maybe 18 people in each class. My inquiry question has changed over the semester, excuse me, that when I realized that no matter where a teacher is, what school they're teaching at, what region they are teaching in, teachers love what they do, and they want their best for their students, and they want each student to succeed. So I kind of specifically changed my inquiry question to low SES schools like J.H. Hines. The data I collected was mainly I just observed the atmosphere in the school, the hallways, the gym, the classes, the office, and then I also asked my students questions about their teacher and if they like her and stuff like that. And then I also got to talk to the teacher that my students were in, so that was really cool. And then I would have liked to speak to a teacher that has taught in both urban and rural schools. What were the realities of my school? The realities in my school was that J.H. Hines is an inner Waco school that is in a low SES neighborhood. So many of the students come from poverty, and 95% of the students qualify for low and reduced lunch. My school is majority African American, with a good percent Mexican, and the minority is white. But the school was recently rebuilt, so it's up to date, and the actual classroom size does, I feel like, fit the number of students in each class, which is good because J.H. Hines has a large amount of students in each class. One thing that I did notice was in the hallways, the yelling at students, and I'll talk about that later as well. What were my initial answers to the inquiry? My initial answer to the inquiry was that teachers in rural schools didn't take the time to get to know each student because multiple times I witnessed in the halls teachers yelling at the top of their lungs at 6, 7, 8-year-old kids, and I was shocked. I did not come from a school that teachers rarely raise their voices, and I was just like, wow, this teacher is yelling. Like, the whole school could hear them yelling at this one student, and I was just like, if that was me as a kid, I would be crying. So at first I was just like, these teachers just do not care. But I quick. What I realized was that that's the culture at J.H. Hines, that these students come from the houses that's how they communicate. They yell at each other, and sometimes it takes the students a while, or it takes the students up to the point where the teacher is yelling that the student's like, oh, my teacher is mad at me. And then the readings that I used for my research, or for my inquiry, was I used the Funds of Knowledge, and that talked about how students bring knowledge from their backgrounds, and from their homes, their communities, that can be used for specific concepts and skills, and that the teacher should look at the child as a whole person, not merely as a student, and that the teacher should take into account what the student has knowledge of, and that way they can tailor lessons to that, or to the student. And then the second one was Ain't No Making It, and this article argues that students socialize schools socialize students to occupy roughly the same position in the class structure as their parents. And so some schools, like low SES schools, might not support students in as well as a way as they probably should. And then the actual data that I collected was, I asked Miss Holly a few questions, and this one stood out the best to me. I asked her, do you find it hard to teach individually to each of your students in your big classroom? And Miss Holly said, if I said that was easy, I would be lying. I do find it difficult, but I strongly believe that each student learns a different way, needs to be met in different areas, and needs more encouragement or less encouragement from me. I make it work, but it is definitely hard. And this is encouraging to me because that's my question. I was wondering, like, do teachers care as much as I felt I was cared for? And Miss Holly is a great example of that. And then what I have learned from my inquiry about social issues related to teaching, I learned from talking with my teacher and observing the dynamic of the school that these kids in the school don't always have the best home life, and that they do not have the support system that they need at home, which makes the job as a teacher much harder. This is because, like, the students are not getting extra practice at home, not getting help on their homework. So teachers at J.H. Hines work so hard during the day, and sometimes no matter how they work, the lack of support is a deciding factor of success for some students, because school is at school and it's at home as well. My research in the class has changed my personal socio-cultural perceptions. Regarding this, my perceptions are that being a teacher in a low SES school is difficult. As a teacher, you have to work twice as hard during the day for your students, due to the lack of success they have at home. There will always be challenges teaching, but the biggest challenge of a teacher is the ability to juggle many different cultures in one classroom. And you see more diverse cultures in rural schools than urban. Urban has less variety of cultures than rural. So that's one big thing. And then how have I applied what I've learned for the inquiry class you're teaching? I learned that being a teacher, no matter where you are, rural or urban, my job is to love my students individually and to support them in their specific needs, and to look at them as a person as a whole and not a student. One important takeaway I have from this class is the importance of knowing and being aware of issues going on in the classroom or education, or just like in the world. There's been multiple topics that we have talked about in class that I hate to admit that I wasn't aware of. And now that I'm aware of them, I feel like I can better be a teacher, and if one of my students is going through this, I'll be able to understand what they're going through and be able to support them in that. And then the answer is that ultimately I didn't see a difference in teachers who taught in rural and urban, because in the end, these teachers loved their students and they wanted success for their students. There's challenges for each, but in rural schools, there are challenges that you have more students and you have to reach each one of those students, and that means taking longer to write lessons to be able to reach each one of those students. But a good teacher will love their students individually and teach and reach each student individually and want success for each one of them. And so that's my inquiry video. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.